Hi everybody, this is Brian O'Haron. It's a little belated this week. I'm recording here, well actually I'm going out live here. There won't be any phone calls, but I'm going out live here on Thursday night at 9 p.m. because Wednesday was kind of canceled out with the storm and they didn't have any power down here at the station. They did a wonderful job getting back up today when the power was turned on, and I got this hour from them, which I thank them very much for. But while we had the storm, I went down to Torrington to get some gas from my truck so I could do errands for people and things and help them out during a storm. My wife's away up in Maine, so I didn't have too much to do around my place. But I went down to Torrington. It was not successful getting gas, but I did go up to the top of East Main. I went into one of the big department food type stores, and I went into the cafeteria area, and I bought a couple pieces of pizza and a Coke or something like that. And I looked at the pizza and I said, gee, I can't eat all this pizza, so I gave a piece of it to the man and wife at the next table, and I said, look, I can't eat all this pizza. I'm going to make a gift to you, and enjoy it. And of course the man said, yeah, I'll eat that piece of pizza. So I went back and sat at my chair and started to drink my drink, and with a Coke or something, and his wife came up to me and said, I want to give you a CD that my husband has just made as a thanks for giving us that pizza. And his husband turned out to be Joseph Firecrow. And that's the cover of his new CD. There's about 12 CDs on there. You heard one, you're going to hear another one called The Eagle at the end. The first one you heard was Face the Music. And Joseph Firecrow is a Winston native. You've probably seen him on Channel 13 when Jay Buttigieg did some of his filming around town and down at the concerts on the Green Park. Joseph's been on there a few times. I don't know the man. He lives up by Backler School somewhere, they tell me. And I started to talk to him after he gave me the CD just a little. I don't want to bother him too much because people that are famous, they're always bothered, so I don't like to bother them. I let them have their peace. But Joseph Firecrow is a Cheyenne Indian. That's from North Dakota. Montana, north in Montana somewhere, and and asked me if he ever wanted to go back there, and he said, well, probably to visit. He likes it here in Winsted. He does travel a lot. He's a Grammy Award winner. And I mentioned to him that I went to college in Kansas University in Lawrence, Kansas, where the Haskell Indian School is, and they get Indians from all over the place there, and it's a very famous Indian school. He had heard of it, of course. And then from Haskell, Kansas got the great 10,000-meter Olympic champion, Billy Mills, who was in my class. He was a Lakota Sioux Indian, and of course, Joseph Firecrow said he has met Billy, and they had talked. So he was pretty well aware of Haskell and Billy Mills, and I guess in the Indian community, it's kind of a small, relatively small community, and a lot of people know each other. So not only is he a Grammy Award winner, but a NAMI Award winner. I'm going to give you his email address, and if you need to get a hold of him or want to book him for a concert or buy one of his CDs, they get www.josephfirecrow.com, and you get a hold of him that way. Or if you want to call him on the phone, it's 860-379-6007. Now, when we end the program tonight, we will also play another song, The Eagle, and we'll show this picture again with the exiting credits. So we're very happy to have him. I am, and I'm sure all of you in our community. We don't see much of him around here, but he's a great resident, and we're all happy to have him here. And I want to say now that we're going to switch to the money slide again for a good portion of the program, because we in our town also have to face the music. We'll be facing the music on Tuesday. Now, all the comments I make tonight, they are mine. Brian O'Haron's not, Firecrow has nothing to do with any of this. I just wanted to show his CD cover and play one of his songs at the beginning. But as far as all the information on the show and the politics of the program and the management advice and the financial advice, that's nothing to do with him. So don't blame him for anything I say tonight. But I want to thank him for being here, being a member of our community, and doing such a good job. While I start the program, tonight will be all about the election. I told you I would talk to you about the individuals that are running and what I think of the individuals. So not only will we have the money clip tonight, but we'll have a lemon and lime clip to show. Not perfect because I had to take it at the last minute here running around, but and then I have roses to show you, because I think we have an election of lemons and roses, and I want to talk to you about that. But before I go into the lemons and roses, I don't really want to use those kind of descriptions for the Board of Education, but I want to go through the Board of Education with you and explain to you what I think about it. This is Brian's views. You don't have to agree with me, and remember, I'm a fiscal conservative, and I'm unaffiliated. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Green Party. I'm not in the Independent Party. I'm an unaffiliated, which is a big U, which is 52 or 3% of the voters in this town. So those U's, if they pay attention and if they show up to vote, they can decide which way this election will go. So I'm trying to appeal to them. I think most Democrats will probably vote their party line, although they shouldn't. And most Republicans will probably vote their party line, although they shouldn't. They should vote for the people they think will do the best for the town. They should not just vote for name recognition and things like that, or for people who've been on the board for 10 years and, probably outlasted their productivity, which some of them don't even have. So we'll talk a bit about that tonight, too. But I want to start out with the Board of Education, because I think this is kind of a no-brainer, because there are 6 people running for 5 seats on the Board of Education. And there's really only one person running, well, there are 2 people running that haven't been on before. So, and one of them is a shoo-in. So I'll say what happens. There's 2 4-year terms. I'm not putting up the ballot tonight because it's hard to see it on TV. I'm just going to talk about these things. You can get a ballot down the town clerk's office, whenever they're open between now and Tuesday. But basically, there are 5 people running for 4 seats on the Board of Education, and these 4 seats are 4-year terms. And then there's one person, in addition, running for one of the 2-year term seats. That's Brian Shaughnessy. He's not on the board now. He's running for one of the 2-year positions on the Board of Education. And he's a shoo-in because he has no competition. It's just him. And at the end of the election, the day after the election, or 2 days after, whenever, if there's any other problems, there'll be still an open seat for 2 years. That open seat will be filled by the next Board of Education. So you can bet that since the Board of Education are all basically big spenders from the liberal Democratic side of the slate, that they'll pick another big spender, liberal Democratic type candidate like they haven't been doing over the last few months. So you won't see much change in that Board of Education. Now, as far as the 4 seats are concerned, the first person I want to talk about is Susan Hofnagel. She is now the chairman of the Board of Education. And in my view, Brian O'Haron's view, she's lousy. She's terrible. She's not a leader. She's in my opinion, and I'm a pretty good judge of people, having done it all my life in business, and had to pay pretty high stakes if I was wrong. She's a lawyer. That's no problem with that. But when you send emails to other people on the Board of Education, and you say that the people on the finance board, some of the selectmen and the finance board members, should be shot in an email to your fellow Board of Education members, or a subset of them anyway, and those were made public when the Winston Journal printed the information after they did an FOI on these emails. It was also brought up during the debate by the fiscal conservatives, the Republicans, and Lisa Smith. So, can you imagine the chairman of the Board of Education saying that members of the finance board and the selectmen should be shot? This lady represents all the children in the school system. And all these children in the school system don't want to hear that people should be shot. We certainly don't want the children to go out and start shooting people because that was the example set to them by the chairman of the Board of Education, and that's in the emails. You can read them. They're freedom of information. You go down to the school, like James Roberts and Marcia Sterling did, and you can go through all the emails. Now, this was brought up during the debate by Glenn Albanesius, I believe, and it shocked the town. They're shocked. How can we have a chairman of a Board of Education making those kind of statements? There were also other statements in those emails that were very questionable and raised a lot of concerns about people having knowledge, and then in other public meetings say perhaps they didn't have that knowledge, right? So my own view is you should not vote for Susan Hofnagel. Now, she'll probably get in anyway. There's a chance. But she could be the 5th one that doesn't get elected for the 4-year terms. So if I were you, I would not vote for Susan. I will not vote for Susan Hofnagel. Anybody who asks me, I tell them I will not vote for Susan Hofnagel because she wants people to be shot. In addition to all the other peculiarities she has as a chairman, and as a member of the Board of Education. I mean, can you imagine a lawyer saying something like that in an email? I can't believe it. It's beyond belief. So anyway, do not vote for Susan Hofnagel. If you do, you get what you deserve. The next thing is we have a few other people running for those 4 seats, and most of those people were appointed. There's Joseph Hanachek, I don't know, I guess he's unaffiliated now. He was a Republican before, but he's running for one of those seats. He was on for a couple of years. I'm lumping these people together because I feel they all are the same way. But Joe was on for a couple of years, and he could have done better, in my opinion. He's a sharp man. He's got a lot of good mathematical skills. But I felt that he got carried along. He got carried along with the big spender liberal democratic supporters and sympathizers that were on that board. So I'm not really, I'm saying you probably should not vote for Joe just as a sign of concern. That you're not happy with the way he behaved in the last 2 years, although he tried his best. I'm not criticizing any of these people for not being decent human beings and all. I don't think he ever said he wanted to shoot anybody. So I think you got to be careful here and show these other Board of Education members that you mean business and you want to get this Board of Education matter squared away. And they were on the board, but at the same time didn't get the job done. They say, well, they weren't on long enough, they didn't have enough information, blah, 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 blah. And I'll remind you of the old rule we used to have in business when I was working, is that when you get on a board or a commission or you're in a critical job in a company, you get 3 months to blame the last guy. After that, it's your problem. So, the other, that's 2 of the 5 running. The next one is Miss Abreu, and I don't know, she has a hyphenated name. I can't remember right now what her first part is, but she's running, and she wants to be on there. She's been appointed within a few months ago to fill a seat, vacant seat. She's just brand new, just getting started, a mother of a few children, and again, she's been on there, hasn't had really a time to show her colors, but as a wake-up call, I'd be careful about voting for her as well. And it's nothing to do with her as a person. It's just that I'm not so sure she's got the experience to do what we need to be done here. Then we have Mary Ellen Pratt-Valio, who's been on 2 or 3 months now. And she is a good person with a lot of good knowledge. She's been involved in education before in other towns. But again, I think she's too close to the big spending, liberal people from the things I hear in the debates and the things she says in the press and at the meetings and things like that. So again, you got to be careful there with that vote. Then you got James Roberts, the Democrat, who's running on his own, not backed by the Democratic Party, who's had his TV shows and has got his Facebook page, and we've talked about on this program, he's got his own TV program. He has not been on the board, but he's been a critic of the board for the last 4 or 5 years. He's done a lot of homework into how they operate, how the schools operate, how they handle their finances, how they handle the scholastic aspects of the whole thing. And he's got a lot of information. He's dug in. He knows the truth. He knows the facts. And he's running. My view is you should vote for him. He's a fiscal conservative. He'll get in there and try to stir that board up, try to get them to pay attention to the right priorities and focus. Now, if James loses, then all the rest of the contenders will win automatically. And that will leave us with a very stale, inefficient, ineffective, poor Board of Education for at least a couple more years. We don't need that. 65% of our budget is the Board of Education. It's been a problem for many years. The state's stuck their nose into the whole thing with a minimum budget requirement. They're trying to micromanage us. We're downsizing our schools and we can't cut our budgets. We can't get the right information from the superintendents. They keep putting out information and and the reports to the government and the auditors over and over again that aren't accurate, aren't correct. Some feel that's a delaying tactic till after the election. Others feel other things. Nobody trusts them. They never do anything in concert with our finance board. They're always at odds for some reason. Now, in good times, that doesn't matter too much. But we're not in good times right now. We're in very, very bad times. And especially in our town. As you all know, I'm not going to dwell on that tonight because I've done that in all the other programs. So what I want to say tonight is that anybody who's running for those 4 seats, the only person I really think deserves one of them is James Nicholas Roberts. He's a graduate of a very fine institution in England. He has survived in the business world, retired at the age of 35, quite well off. Lives in our community, has for 10, 15 years out in Winchester. And this guy will do a good job if he can stand it. You know, it's very frustrating for we who come from businesses and have been successful because, you know, things happen very slowly in this area, and it's very hard to convince people. A lot of people don't even speak the same language. It's like a little Tower of Babel in there. A lot of them can't even add, I don't think. But, you know, mathematics is not their strong suit. Budgets are not their strong suit. Reviewing budgets, saying no, none of that's their strong suit. Now, Brian Shaughnessy, he's running for he's also a Democratic-backed candidate. He's running for the one of the two-year seats. He'll get it for sure. And then after the election's over, the one person who loses, if they're a Democratic big spending sympathizer, they'll get that second seat for 2 years if they want it. They might not want it. And if James Roberts loses, they will not appoint him, I don't think, to one of those others. And that's terrible because now if you read all the emails, they don't like James Roberts because he challenges them. He gets the facts. He digs in. He does his homework. Can you imagine a Board of Education led by somebody who wants to shoot the finance board and members of the finance board and members of the selectmen is a lawyer, and none of them really understand finance. And that's a good part of their job, is to manage the budget and make sure they get the information from the superintendents. There are 2 of them, one there and one up in Gilbert, and get all the right information on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, yearly basis, and don't send off erroneous reports to the state and to the auditors. And don't be the last Board of Education in the state, 100 and something, to submit the audit for the year 2009-10. We still haven't done it yet. And because we haven't done it, our credit is, you know, nobody will give us and loan us any money until that audit's complete. And until that audit's complete, we don't even know how that year ended. We don't know if we lost, maybe there's another couple 100,000 we lost in there or something. We don't know. And that's not good. The financial industry does not like indecision. They don't like a lack of information. They want people to be in agreement on things and have the facts. And indecision is not part of that game. So they're not going to loan us any money. And that hurts us when we try to do roads. That hurts us when we try to do bridges. That hurts us when we try to do other infrastructural things that we need to raise our part of the budget for, even though we might get grants for the other 70% of it. Sometimes you got to put it all up in advance and then get some back. So it's very, very tricky. So if I were you, I'd be very careful here. I would vote for all the incumbents. Probably don't even vote for them. Certainly don't vote for Susan Hoffnagel. Vote for James Roberts, and then we'll see who gets the rest of the votes. And then you'll have somebody on the board that will be working in the taxpayer, and you, the parent, and you, the children, in your favor. Because even though they have the rap, there's an Oxford grad who's been very successful in business at a young age, and they say he's not in favor of education. Can you believe that? well educated, believes in education, wants to see it done right, efficiently, and wants to see the town also prosper. And instead of wasting money in the education system, move some of it over to the town for the fund balance, move some of it over to the town to fix the roads and the bridges and whatever else. And then once that gets balanced, then start to concentrate on growing the revenue in the town, the profitable revenue that we need to help to stay balanced and to get a better education system and to get the test scores up and to get good roads and to get the bridges fixed and to get a lot of the infrastructure and the buildings fixed. Let's do that, all right? So I'm saying to you, if you don't vote for anybody but James Roberts, you're doing yourself a favor, because you're going to get a message across to the Board of Education that you're not happy with their progress. Now, I will say that evidently the superintendent of schools sent out a letter to all the mothers and fathers in town with a whole bunch of numbers. We're going to have to lay off 40 teachers and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's kind of normal union tax scare stuff, the normal teacher scare stuff. That probably won't happen, once the election's over. And if the fiscal conservatives win, that won't happen. There won't be that, because they'll get in with the state and they'll work out a compromise, and everybody will be happy. And I'm pretty sure that's the way it's going to go. Now, if the Democrats win at the selectman level, that's the key level for this election, and I'm going to dwell on that for the probably the remainder of the show. If the Democrats win, it's going to be pretty bad for this town. Big tax problem for the next couple of years. And that's going to then snowball into other problems, because financial problems, they snowball. And we'll be deeper and deeper in trouble. We won't have anybody who has the ability, and we'll talk about in the next section. So now, the message you got to get across, the reason I say don't vote for any of them except for James Roberts, is because you got to get the message across to those people on the Board of Education, Dr. Dutton, Christine Royer, and whoever else is on there that's not running this time. You got to get them the message that you don't like what they're doing, and that they're not representing you, the voters of this town, who voted for the budget at the town annual budget meeting and annual budget referendum. You agreed that we should take some money from the schools, because we're supposed to be saving money with the move from 7th and 8th grade up to Gilbert, and we should be saving a lot of money there. And you heard that from our Wayne Dove, one of our last town managers, and other town managers too. And you agreed at the town budget meeting and the referendum to move about $730,000 over to the fund balance, so that we got close up to $1 million in the fund balance, which is our savings account. And you agreed to move a certain amount of money, I can't never remember the exact amount, $350,000, $400,000 over to the town to do some roads and to do some other maintenance and repairs on buildings, and to buy a couple cars, and to for the police, and to do some stuff for the fire department and the town garage, that kind of thing. So you now have to stand up and be counted and vote. Don't even vote. Just pass up these people that are running for the Board of Education, with the exception of James, and that'll get a strong message across to the Board of Education that you're backing these financial conservatives that are on the finance board, that are trying to solve this problem. And once again, I want to point out that if they win, we'll probably have Susan Hofnagel as chairman of the Board of Education again. That's the last thing you want in this town. The last thing. And if you don't think so, just go down to the school, ask to read all the emails that were passed around by certain members of the Board of Education, and others not included, and read those emails. You're going to see some frightening things in there. So now I'm going to move on, and I'm going to talk about the lemons that are running for the Board of Selectmen and one lime. That picture will stay up until I'm done talking about them, and I'll talk about them one at a time. I'm not in favor of this group. That's why I put the lemons there and the lime. Because they're not going to help you solve the financial problems of this town. Most of them don't have the background to do so. So we'll start with number one. These are the Democrats, 5 of them running, 4 lemons, and 1 lime. Now, I always start with the head lemon, the one in the center. That's Mayor Perez. And I call her the bitter lemon. And on each side of her, you'll see 2 lemmings on one side, and 1 liming and 1 lemming on the other side. The lemmings are the people who follow the leader over the cliff, as I showed you on one of my previous programs. Mayor Perez leading the lemmings over the cliff into the water, where they don't even realize it. So we'll start with Chairman Perez, Mayor Perez. Mayor Perez is basically an educator, a tenured educator. She makes a heck of a good salary, and as far as I know, and I don't know that much about it, but she has a significant other that also makes a pretty good salary from the education side. And I would say together they probably add up to about $175,000 plus benefits. Lives at the lake, professes people at the lake to do one thing, and she does the opposite. And then as mayor, she says one thing and does another. She's not really qualified financially to manage anything financially. She sometimes pretends that she is that way, but she's not really. She doesn't do her homework. That's why Selectman Fracasso and other fiscal conservatives always one up on her because they do their homework. She doesn't. She's an educated, paid highly, doesn't do her homework, and wants to spend more on the education system without really understanding it and without really trying to manage it like the fiscal conservatives are doing. Now, I highlight her because I know a lot about her over the last 10 years, and I know what she really wants to try to do and what she doesn't want to do, and I know sometimes when she says one thing, she really means the opposite, and that she prefers to let other people do the dirty work for her, and then she will take kudos and, you know, go in the parades and pat people on the back. She's done a few things in the past that I didn't like, and I mentioned them on this program. One is, I saw her sucking up to the veterans here about a year or so ago, and then I remembered Joe Rizzi, the veteran from Vietnam, that went into the inland wetland group, trying to get his dock back that his mother and father had many, many, many years, and his brothers couldn't use because they were either incapacitated or had some other reason. And then when he tried to put his dock in, she said to him, Mr. Rizzi, not knowing he was a Vietnam vet, I guess, you're going to have a war on your hands if you want to get that dock put back in the water. And Joe is reported as having said, a lot of the minutes of these meetings, recordings have disappeared, but basically Joe is reported as having said, war. You don't know what a war is. There's a guy who crawled through the jungles of Vietnam, being shot at, shooting at other people. Then I went to another meeting of inland wetlands where I heard her say, Joe Rizzi was with me at the time, that she didn't want to be the Highland Lake Nazi anymore. And the reason for that is because she used to go around the lake turning everybody in, taking pictures of everybody and doing all that kind of thing, which in my hometown when I was a kid, she would have been in serious trouble with the neighbors for that. So I'm not in favor of her. I don't think she's done anything. She's been in here almost 10 years now. What has she done? Ask all the people in town, what has this lady done? It's not good enough to just say, I can get along with everybody and not get along with one of your own party's recommendation for selectman, Lisa Smith, and then leading a group that outcast her from the Democratic election this time around. See, Lisa's running on her own as a Democrat, not backed by the party. I remember a few elections ago when she blackballed a couple of the other people that were picked by the town committee to run for office, Matthew Brennan and Mary Shea. And she gave him a hard time. locked them out of TV programs, all kinds of things. And she sided with other people in, I guess, the Independent Party at the time, or other people that weren't put forward by her Democrats. Last time around, she didn't back Kathy O'Brien, basically. Paid lip service to it, maybe, but was really more in favor of the people that supported her. So you got a real lemon there. Now, you voted her in office for 10 years, and you got nothing for it. Zero. So I can't twist your arm. I can't be there and cast your vote. But if you want to vote for this lemon, then you're going to have to live with that lemon for at least another 2 years, unless she quits along the way. And that isn't likely, because she likes the glory of being mayor. Well, I guess that's enough about her. Let's move to the left, and we'll see. That's basically another, I call this a lemming, because it's sort of under the control of the lemon, the bitter lemon, mayor. And that's George Clausen. Now, George Clausen, I won't vote for George Clausen. I didn't last time for either of these. But you did. You got him in on a sympathy vote, because the fiscal conservatives saw him as a problem in the last group of Selectmen Finance Board, and they removed him from the Planning and Zoning chair that he'd been for a few years. Now, personally, I don't have anything against George Clausen. He's helped me a lot on my applications. He's been very good and very professional when I went through Planning and Zoning, and I give him credit for that. However, his stance on growing the town, saying let's build community while not building community, or trying to slow down the growth of the building of the community, is just like last time when they said we can get along with everybody. They're saying that again this time. But they can't get along with everybody. Not only can't they get along with the fiscal conservative Republicans, they can't get along with the fiscal conservative Democrats either. And they haven't in the past. Mary Shea and Matthew Brennan, in my opinion, were both fiscal conservative Democrats. And that's one of the reasons why the big spender and liberal, Althea Perez, didn't want them to back them. Right? And to a certain extent, Kathy O'Brien was a fiscal conservative. I didn't agree with everything she did, but she did help get 7th and 8th grade moved up to Gilbert. And that was one, I think, major thing she ran on when she ran, and that's one of the reasons they didn't really back her, because they didn't want her to get 7th and 8th grade to Gilbert. They were secretly against that. And even, it's one of these things, let's plan more, let's take more time, let's wait till next year, let's think about it. And meanwhile, we're here as taxpayers paying this exorbitant bill for quality we're not getting, okay? And the kids, if anybody should feel sorry for the kids, these two people are partly to blame, because they're not helping us to solve the fiscal financial problems in our Board of Education that will then give us a foundation to improve the situation for the kids. Now remember, underneath all this are good teachers, mean well, try hard, they pull together, and they'll do the best for the kids no matter what happens at a higher level. So, and I also want to point out to you that they say they want to build community. Well, if you want to see one of the George Clausen build the community things, go up and take a look at the sign that he's had up for 15 or 20 years, Hudson Wire area, trying to get somebody as a broker, somebody interested in that property. It's been there for 10, 20 years, I don't know, somewhere in that neck of the woods. So if he can't even get the Hudson Wire problem squared away, well, I just dropped the microphone. Hold on. If he can't get the Hudson Wire problem squared away over 15, 20 years, or whatever it may be, and I could be wrong, maybe it's 12 years, but it's a long period of time. How's he going to build a community? What Perez knows about building a community is zero. She knows nothing about it. She's a school teacher, used to play basketball. At least George has some business experience. But this whole approach to let's study things, let's do another plan, let's get $100,000 to give to Yale to come in and help us shred or whatever, that's just like a loop, go round, 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 never get anywhere. Because we know we're not going to get that kind of money to do another plan at that. And even if they get elected, where are they going to get the money? The voters have to vote it in the budget. So let's leave George Clausen for now. There's two people I will not vote for. And then we'll go over to the lime. The lime I put in instead of a lemon because that is the person, Mike Renzullo, who's a selectman, who's been in for 4 years. And he's as green can be. He wants everything done green. All buildings should be done green. The whole town should change all its lights to be more green, although that costs money. And everything should be done for the town to be more green. Nobody can argue with that. But the problem is he's been there 4 years and he's done nothing green yet. We haven't done anything different. We might change a few light bulbs around. But what else have we done? Started a lot of things that never came to fruition. So ask yourself, what has Michael Renzullo done for this town? Now he'll tell you, well, I bought the Capital Products for $1. But he's in a pickle there because that's got $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 worth of costs involved that he has to raise the money for. No parking in the area, a lot of work to be done, and he hasn't really got, or hasn't been able to show the finance board that he has a plan and a finance plan to be able to do anything with that building. So he's kind of stuck there. Now he says in the paper today that he wants to take over the big furniture company building from the guys that own it in New York and work something out with them, and then he's going to take some of the money he makes on the Capitol building, according to the newspaper, and put it into that furniture company. Well, that's kind of a pipe dream. And by the way, it's all going to be green when it's done. But if it's as green as the things he's done in the last 4 years, remember, he's going to put things on the roofs and then going to do this and do that, and so that we could be more solar and all. None of that's happened to the best of my knowledge. Maybe there's a little one roof somewhere that got changed. Nothing's happened. A lot of talk. So I like the guy. I think he's trying to do the right thing, but I really wouldn't do it from the seat of a selectman. If I were him, I'd get off the selectman where he could have his freedom to run his business as CEO, go out and get money, not get the other selectmen, put them in jeopardy by doing things on the board that scare other investors from coming to town, perhaps, that people are afraid to vote with him on, that he has to recuse himself on votes. I think he'd be better off getting off the board, letting somebody else get on who could vote in his favor, rather than have to recuse themselves all the time on these things. But it'll be a long, 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 cold day before we get much green. And green is expensive. Ride around town and see how many roofs have sun catchers on them. Not many. Green's expensive up front, pays off over a long period of time, maybe. So, and I'm not against it. I'm just saying that if he were a billionaire or a multimillionaire and he said he was going to do all these things, then and could show a plan and show financial backing and show progress, it'd be no problem whatsoever. But still, best if he wasn't a selectman. So I wouldn't vote for Mike Renzullo. Now, he did vote for me to be on the EDC, and I thank him for that. He made a wise choice there. But I like the guy. I think if he gets off the Board of Selectmen and goes out there and maybe he can pull off a miracle. I've seen people do in the computer industry that I never thought would make it. Nobody ever expected Steve Jobs to be what he was before he died when they first started. And I know a lot of other people, Bill Gates and people like that, were the same way. But they had enough sense to go out and get a good CEO and get the financial backing, and the people that were backing those people wouldn't give them the money unless they put in a good CEO and a good financial director. So I think that's what he has to do. He has to spend all his time finding a good CEO and a good financial director and raising money to get all this work done. And if he gets off the selectmen, then he'll, it won't be compromised. It'll be the best thing ever happened to him. He can go out, he can do whatever he wants as a private businessman, and he can either fail or succeed. Hope he succeeds, but not as a selectman. So I wouldn't vote for him either. Now we're going to get into the newer ones that are running, and I'm going to first start with the one next to the lime there. That's James DeVita, another lemon. He's He's a nice guy. Everybody in town knows James DeVita. He's been on many committees and sports things and this and that. Worked at, helps at Gilbert School. Comes from the state. Always had a decent income. He's got a decent retirement. I don't know what he makes, but I'm sure he's comfortable. And down deep, I think he might even be a little bit of a fiscal conservative. The problem is that he always seems to go with the Democratic Party's main viewpoint. And of course, the Democratic Party is now run by a very small number of the Democrats. It's not run by the fiscal conservatives, that's for sure. So the big spenders. So while James was on the Board of Education over the last few years, he voted to spend, 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 spend. And then he sat there and said, well, in public meetings, you can see it in the minutes, or if you go listen to the discs and things, gee, I didn't know that was going on. I didn't realize that. We didn't know any of that. Well, when you're on the Board of Education, you got to know that's your job. That's why you're on there. And you can't say, well, I'm just a volunteer. Well, don't volunteer. When you volunteer, you accept responsibility, and you have to do your homework. I've named you 4 people so far that don't do their homework. None of those 4 that I talked about do their homework. So James DeVita, I would say, we don't need, on our next Board of Selectmen, we don't need 3 educators. We don't need James DeVita from the Board of Education that did nothing and got us into a lot of trouble and that we're still in. We lost our credit rating for a while here until we get that audit done, which we're the last in the state to do. We can't seem to get the right numbers to the state or to the auditors, and the last I knew, a week or so ago, we still didn't have the right numbers there, and the auditors still got to come back and say, okay, you fail or you pass, or here's how much you overspent, or here's how much you underspent. We don't have any of that yet, and we probably won't for another month or 2, and the election will be over by then. So you got to be very careful here. Of course, James also was one of the Board of Education people that sued the town. Imagine that. So you got 2 people out of those 4 who sued the town. George Clausen sued the town, cost us about $40,000. Personally, I would have just resigned if I were him. I wouldn't have gone through all that. I've always said that. But my mother said, never sue your town. And then you've got James DeVita, who's suing the town right now. And then I want to talk about the 3rd educator that you're going to have here if you elect these Democrats. That's Mary Ann Welcome. She's been around since Methuselah. At least 10, maybe 12 years. She was mayor for a term or 2 and didn't do much. I like the lady. I mean, she's a nice person. I can't really say that for some of the other people, but I can say that for her. But on the other hand, she's not what we need right now. We don't need 3 educators on our Board of Selectmen, 2 of whom were tenured. Don't have to worry about getting fired. They might get removed from a job they're in, but they're always going to have some other job. They'll get a good retirement at an early age. 55 is usually when they get a retirement now. I don't know how many of you people in the audience get a retirement, nice lucrative retirement at the age of 55. So you've got 3 educators there, and guess what? We're in deep financial problem in the education system. Now, also chances are pretty good that all 3 of them were in the union too. So they think that way. More, more, more. Let's get more. Let's scare the people into voting for us. Let's put out information to all the parents in town to make them think that if the fiscal conservatives get elected, how terrible things are going to be. That doesn't help us any. Now, if that letter went out from the superintendent of schools and the finance board of the town, that would make a different story. Somebody mentioned to me today, well, the superintendent sent out the facts to everybody. Well, he didn't send out the facts. Had he sent it with the finance board's approval, he would probably have the facts or something pretty close to the facts. You're never going to get perfect on this. So, personally, although I like Mayor Welcome as an individual, she has 5 children. I don't think Mayor Perez has any children. James DeVita, I don't know. George Clausen, I think, has at least 1 or 2. I don't know. And I don't think Mike has any, but he might have some that I don't know about. So I wouldn't vote for Marianne Welcome. So none of those will get my vote. And I gave you the reasons. And I think if you vote for them, it's like committing Harry-Carry, you know. You're going to be in deep trouble because they're not leaders. They're cheerleaders. They can't even get along with each other. Last time, if I showed you these 2 years ago, Lisa Smith would be one of these people. If I showed you 4 years ago, or whatever it was, 6 years ago, I don't know when, Matthew Brennan and Mary Shea would have been too. But they froze him out. Like they've frozen Lisa Smith out this time. She's the best of all of them. Okay, with that, I'm going to now go on to the roses. Should see a picture of some roses come up on the screen. If not, I'll start talking about the roses until the picture comes up. There we go. I've got 5 roses there. And right now, you've got 5 roses running against the 4 lemons and a lime. Next Tuesday, this will be my last show. I'll talk a bit more about that later, but there'll be one more show on Monday night. But this is the last Getting Things Done program before the election. So I want to get across to you. How much time have I got left here, Chris? He'll tell me in a minute how much time I got left. But anyway, I'll start right away saying that the roses are the fiscal conservatives that we need on our Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance. No doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. We're in deep financial trouble here with the state, with our Board of Education. We don't have enough money to run the town. We can't outfit our police. We can't outfit our fire department. We can't outfit our town garage. We can't outfit town hall. I mean, we're in real trouble here. And by the way, a couple of those lemons before, last time around or two, they wanted to spend another $56 million on fixing up a lot of buildings at the taxpayers' expense, a lot of which was going to go into the schools, probably $30 million of that or so, plus interest, you know, the interest involved as well. And now we're thinking about closing a school or two and winding down because we only got they're only half empty. So these fiscal conservatives I call the roses in this election. And we'll start with Selectman Fracasso. Selectman Fracasso knows how to build businesses. And he knows how to build community. He's built a successful business, operates all over the East Coast and halfway to the West Coast. Very profitable. He's a very good businessman. He gets involved in the detail. And he does his homework on the Board of Selectmen. And he wants to see the town finances balanced. He wants to see the Board of Education run efficiently and the grades improved. Matter of fact, he's a key leader of the St. Anthony School, where they do run a pretty tight ship. They have a lot of advantages that we don't have, which I don't want to go into on this program, but basically, you can't say he doesn't believe in education. He believes in education. Went through the school system here in this town. He's a local resident, citizen, pours his own personal money into things in town, a charitable type thing, does a lot of good for people, free of charge. He's always there when somebody needs a hand, whether they're a friend or not. And he cares. He does his homework. He does his homework better than the people that have our school teachers and on the Board of Education. Most of the Board of Education people don't do their homework either. And the one who does do her homework, Carol Palumba, happens to be a fiscal conservative. They don't like her. They don't agree with her. They hate James Roberts. You can see that in their emails. They don't want him around because he questions them. He asks them questions. Like you do your children when you want to know something. You ask them questions. Sometimes you can tell, even by non-answers, you know, what the answers are. So Fracasso is the leader of these 5. They're kind of mostly equal, to be honest with you, but he sort of, you know, takes the lead and coordinates a lot. They don't always vote with him. Some vote differently. So Selectman Fracasso should definitely be elected. I don't think there's any chance he's going to lose, to be honest with you. And he's so good, and he's getting in there, that he needs help. He needs the other 4 roses as well. So the next rose I'll talk about is not a Republican. Fracasso's a Republican. The next rose is Lisa Smith. She's a Democrat. Now, she's not backed by the Democratic Party, like Kathy O'Brien really wasn't. She was in name, but not in spirit. She's not even back because they couldn't get along with her. Because as a fiscal conservative, she didn't agree with them on every issue. And one of the things I read in the paper that the mayor said was, well, if you're a member of the Democratic Party and you're on a selectman and finance board, you got to agree with us on everything. Well, she doesn't agree. She votes with the Democrats where she agrees with them, and she votes with the fiscal conservatives where she agrees with them, and she votes with none of them, abstains when she doesn't agree with any of them. So I would vote again for her. I'm supporting her. I threw a little money into her campaign, not much, but a little bit, because that's an investment in the town, in my view. It's an investment in the town. This lady does a lot of good for the town. She will continue to do so. She has 5 children, too. Can't say she doesn't believe in education. She does a lot of work for the education system, attends meetings at night, does all kinds of things. So don't label her or Fracasso as being against education. How can the guy be the head of the, one of the leaders of the St. Anthony School and be against education? Doesn't make any sense at all. What he'd like to see is the whole thing run more like St. Anthony School is what he'd like to see. Because they get better grades, they do better at Gilbert, blah, 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 in my opinion, and that of others. Somebody might prove me wrong on that, but I doubt it. So we got 1 Republican, Ken Fracasso, 1 Democrat, a real Democrat, fiscal conservative. Probably most of the Democrats in this town are fiscal conservatives, but they don't come out and participate. So they've been taken over by the big spender liberal faction, minority in their party. And they're going to have to live with that for a while, just like we're doing at the national level and the state level. So then we'll shift 1 more to the right, and we'll go to another Republican, and that is our good friend Karen Beadle, who's been around for about 12 years. She's been on the Board of Education. She's been on the Finance Committee there. She's been a select person. She's been head of a lot of committees and commissions over the years, way back to 1990, almost, year 2000 at least, I'm sure of that. So she's very, 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 very good. And she's a fiscal conservative. She knows how to get things done. She's used to handling money. She's used to handling business transactions. And she is very, very, very good. I know that Lisa Smith's husband is very sharp, too, when it comes to math and business and financials, and I'm sure she gets a lot of input from him along the way, although I can't say for sure. But there you got 2 Republicans, 1 Democrat. Then we move over to another Republican. That's Glenn Albanesius, another local product, lives out in Winchester. Actually invented a mailbox of some sort many years ago and has patents on that. Sold those. He works for the company that distributes paper and all that kind of thing. So he's a businessman. He's on the road a lot. He's very quiet. He spent a lot of time over the last few years helping the town free of charge, build a website, improve their website, work with the people in the purchasing department and other people. And he's also the interface to the EDC, Economic Development Commission, and he does it properly. He doesn't meddle in their business. He just goes and tries to support them and tries to help them interface with the selectmen and get some air cover for the things they need. So Glenn Albanesius, you need to get him back in again. He's a fiscal conservative. He knows we need to square away our financial affairs. He knows that we got to earn before we spend. And he's not trying to say to you that, I'll tell you, he can get along with everybody, that's for sure. And most of these people can get along with everybody. And they're not ostracizing other members of their own party. They don't agree. They don't always agree. They don't always vote the same way. But they don't have any equivalent of Lisa Smith that they've outlawed and thrown off their running for the selectmen and the Board of Finance. And then you have an excellent person. That's James Roberts' wife, Marcia Sterling. Brilliant background in mathematics, MIT experience, Wellesley, University of Chicago, which everybody is very, very happy with in the country. They're a great school for business and for other higher learning. And she digs into things. She and her husband James have been digging in for 5 years to come up with all this information to help these fiscal conservatives begin to try to do this. So I only got a couple minutes. I just want to say the fiscal conservatives have been in power now for 4 years. They're breaking through this long barrier of the Board of Education, its union, and the state interference. Give them another 2 years or 4 years to get the job done. Switching to the Democrats now would be suicide for this town. So, you know, this is a serious election. It's very serious. So now I'm going to say vote row B, vote row B, and vote row D. Row B and row D. Do not vote row A, because that's like sticking a dagger in your chest. You don't want to do that. With that, we're going to exit the program. Good luck on next Tuesday voting. Get out there and vote. Everybody's vote counts. That's what goes on. And we're now going to leave with our friend Joseph Firecrow playing a song about an eagle.
Hey,